Government corruption has never been more prevalent or caused more harm. It's why extremism is on the rise. It's why the financial gap between the haves and have-nots has never been wider. And it's why our planet is at risk of an extinction level tragedy. That's why I need your help to keep exposing the truth about the rot on both sides of the aisle. Become a supporter or a friend of the show today by clicking on the coffee link in the description box below. Friends of the show join me on a Zoom hangout once a month, and you guys can ask me any questions you want, and I can get to know you better. But the most important reason to help is to keep the show alive. Together, we can and will save our country and our planet. Thanks in advance and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I have an update to share about one of Trump's Capitol insurrectionists. It's time for an episode of Where Are They Now?
Matthew Bledsoe was arrested.
Patrick Montgomery was in court.
Jonathan Manapa will stay in federal custody.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
So 51-year-old Robert Chapman of New York also goes by the name of Robert Eric. And you guys are definitely going to remember this story. This is the guy, one of the guys, I should say, who was turned in by someone he was trying to hook up with on Bumble. He was trying to hook up with this woman. And this was on January 13th. He tried to impress her. When she asked if he was in DC on the 6th, he wrote, quote, "I did storm the Capitol. I made it all the way to Statuary Hall, did an interview with Robert O'Moro of the Washington Post, also did online interview with Jess Brevins of the Wall Street Journal." The woman just wrote back and said, quote, "We are not a match." And then she promptly reported him to the FBI. So when they investigated, they discovered that Chapman had announced his plans and his crimes on Facebook. On January 4th, he posted, quote, "Getting out of New York shitty, the rotten apple. Gonna go down to the District of Criminality to enjoy some much-deserved entertainment." Then on the 6th, Chapman shared a photo of himself inside the Capitol, and he wrote in all caps, quote, "I'm fucking inside the Capitol." I mean, that could be taken in so many ways, Robert. I mean, and you could have done that in the privacy of your own home. I don't know. But anyway, maybe he likes an audience. Maybe he likes to be watched. Anywho, so Chapman wasn't the only one who boasted about his crimes on social media. On January 7th, one of his friends shared a photo of him inside the building, and he wrote, quote, "My dear friend and broster, Robert, made it in the Capitol building at the protest yesterday. Woo-hoo!" And 4 exclamation points. And when some of his Facebook contacts started leaving negative comments under that post, Chapman jumped in and he wrote, quote, "These are your peers, colleagues. They're a bunch of little bitch trolls, keyboard warriors who don't do a fucking thing." So Chapman was arrested on April 22nd of last year, and he was charged with the common 4 misdemeanors: entering a restricted building or grounds, 2 counts of disorderly conduct, and 1 count of parading in a Capitol. He pleaded guilty in December to the parading charge, and he was looking at up to 6 months in jail, up to $5,000 in fines, and up to 5 years of probation. But prosecutors were asking for only 45 days in jail and 3 years of probation, plus 60 hours of community service. Chapman's attorney, of course, argued for probation only. And at the sentencing hearing, U.S. District Judge Rudolph Contreras noted that Chapman has a lengthy criminal history. Since 2002, Chapman has racked up convictions for graffiti, driving under the influence, criminal mischief, and various drug offenses. Chapman's attorney tried to explain away his past offenses. He said it was the actions of someone who's good most of the time with, quote, small slivers of failing. But the prosecutor argued that what happened on January 6th wasn't just some minor event. And the prosecutor said, quote, "This is a standout event in history and in Mr. Chapman's criminal behavior." So Chapman himself spoke at the sentencing hearing, and he told the judge that he's been praying for everyone who was negatively affected by what happened on January 6th. And he said, quote, I'm hoping as a nation and as a country, we can hope to heal and bond together and become a much more unified, loving nation. I'm very remorseful that any individuals were hurt or injured or negatively impacted that day. I never wish for anyone to be hurt or adversely affected. I'm optimistic for the future. We can become a much more loving, caring nation together toward each other. In the end, Judge Contreras sentenced Chapman to only 3 months of home detention, 18 months of probation, 60 hours of community service, a $742 fine, and a $500 restitution fee. Unbelievable. So he's another judge who's going to be overly lenient with these people. And here's the thing, beyond just these ridiculous sentences, here's what pisses me off with these judges and the weakness of the Democratic Party that appoints them. You've got Judge Contreras here, an Obama appointee, and he gives this guy a slap on the wrist, even with an extensive criminal history. Then you have on the other end of the spectrum, Trump appointees, puppets for the Republican Party like McFadden, who also give these criminals a pass. So you've got weak-ass Democrats who don't want to seem too extreme, or they don't want to seem or appear too far left. So they install these quote unquote moderate judges, right? Moderate, middle of the road judges who are actually more like center right, if we're being honest. Then you have the GOP. You've got Republican presidents like Trump who install these far right, extremist, radical Republican judges because they don't care. They don't care how it looks. They don't care what anyone thinks. So you end up with every single judge on the bench leaning to the right, with very rare exception. Where is the left's representation in the court? That's what I want to know. This is why I keep saying, if we keep electing progressives instead of progressives, and we keep electing these corporate-owned presidents on the left, and yes, Joe Biden is one of them. He was known as the senator from MBNA, the bank. That's how in the pocket of the financial institutions he was. We keep electing people like that, the country's going to keep getting pulled to the right. Just to move the needle back to center, we need to elect a completely far left candidate, someone who's going to nominate the most progressive of justices for all of the courts, and tough justices, not pushovers, not people who are going to let everyone off the hook. And we need to expand the Supreme Court and get some lefty justices installed on the Supreme Court. And again, this is not to make the court some extreme leftist body. This is just to pull the Overton window back to center because we're so far right. We have no one who's going to crack down on things like this, insurrections by the extremists on the right. Anyway, guys, I know that was related, but kind of off topic. But I just had to throw that out there because it's so damn frustrating for me to see these people just walk. Whether this guy committed any acts of violence or not, whether he did anything to damage the building or not, his presence allowed for those officers to be beaten and tased and sprayed with all kinds of chemicals. He allowed for the building to be damaged because he took the attention away from officers who could have been helping their fellow officers. So yes, he deserved time behind bars, especially with a criminal history. This is a freaking joke. All right, guys, when I hear more, I'll let you know. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care. I'll talk with you soon.